What happens when a confident cop publicly humiliates a young black man for doing the right thing, not knowing who he just put in handcuffs? The moment that followed left an entire precinct frozen in silence. You won't believe who walked through that door and what he said next. Let me take you back to a Tuesday. Hot enough to bake cornbread on the hood of a car. Sun just mean for no reason, like it was mad at somebody. I was wearing my favorite t-shirt, gray, soft from too many washes, and a pair of jeans with just enough wear to look intentional. Had my phone in one hand and a cold ginger ale in the other, standing outside Clyde's Gas and Go trying to mind my business. Now, I didn't come there to save anybody. I came to fill up, cool off, and maybe listen to a little Sam Cooke while traffic died down. That was the whole plan. But you know what they say about plans. She was maybe 5 feet tall with a halo of white curls and the kind of glasses you only find in dusty desk drawers. Her Buick looked like it had survived both a war and a tornado. Hood popped open like it was giving up the ghost, smoke curling out slow and steady. She was just standing there, poking at the engine with a napkin like that was going to fix anything. Nobody stopped. Not one person. A man in a suit looked at her and stepped wider like her bad luck might rub off. A mother grabbed her child's hand tighter and scurried inside. I watched it all from across the lot, sipping my soda, trying to tell myself it wasn't my business. But it was. I walked over slow, gave a polite, "Ma'am, you need a hand?" She looked up like I was the second coming. "Oh, I don't want to trouble you," she said, voice soft like lace. "It's no trouble," I said, already rolling up my sleeves. Took me less than 5 minutes to figure out it was a loose battery connection. Nothing heroic, just a twist and a tap, and that Buick coughed itself back to life. She clapped her hands like I'd pulled off a magic trick. I smiled, wiped my hands, told her to get it looked at properly when she could. She thanked me 3 times before easing into the driver's seat and pulling away like she didn't quite believe the car was moving. I turned to head back to my car, and that's when I heard the engine behind me. Not the Buick, a Dodge Charger, matte black. Police lights blinking low and lazy in the grill. It slid up like a shark in shallow water. The door creaked open. Out stepped a cop with sunglasses big enough to cover his whole attitude. Mid-40s, crew cut, chest puffed like a cartoon villain. Name tag said Patterson, but everything about him screamed problem. He didn't ask if I was okay, didn't ask what happened, just looked at me like I owed him an explanation for existing. "Sir," he said, voice dry as dust, "what are you doing here?" Now I've had a few run-ins. I know the drill, hands visible, voice calm, movements slow like molasses. I was helping that woman with her car. He held up a hand like I was interrupting his dinner. "You got ID?" I reached into my back pocket real careful and handed it over. He looked at it like it smelled bad. "Live around here?" he asked. 2 blocks down. He chuckled, but it wasn't the funny kind. "Of course you do." My jaw clenched. "Something wrong, officer?" "You tell me," he said. "Standing around open car hoods, sweating, moving wires. Looks like tampering to me." "She asked me to help," I said, still trying to keep it steady. He looked around dramatically, like cameras were watching. Funny, I don't see her here to back that up. I didn't stop to get a witness signature. I shot back before I could help it. That was a mistake. His whole face shifted. Smug turned sharp. "Step over here," he said. "Put your hands on the hood." "Seriously?" He didn't answer, just unlatched his holster. Subtle but loud enough in meaning, so I did it. Palms on the car hood, hot enough to sizzle. Behind me, I heard a phone camera click. Someone across the lot was recording, and thank God they were. But right then, it didn't help. Because all I felt was that familiar heat rising in my chest, not from the sun, but from that hollow, sick, been here before kind of shame. He patted me down like I was made of secrets, pulled my wallet, flipped through it, tossed it back like it bored him. Then he leaned close and whispered, "Trying to be a hero, huh?" I turned my head just slightly. Trying to be a neighbor. He didn't like that. He grabbed my wrist, twisted it just enough to make a point. "You talk a lot for someone being detained." "For what?" "We'll figure it out at the station." Now here's where it got real rich. As he started to cuff me, a kid, maybe 16, yelled from across the parking lot, "Hey, he didn't do nothing. He helped that old lady. I saw it." Patterson didn't even blink, just kept working the cuffs like he was tying shoelaces. Another voice joined in, then another. People were pulling out phones, recording, asking questions. But Patterson? He smiled. Like the more people watched, the more power he felt. Like the badge on his chest gave him the right to decide who got dignity and who didn't. And I realized then, it was never about the Buick, never about suspicious behavior. It was about the fact that I was standing there unbothered, helpful, and black. Three things that, in his world, didn't belong in the same sentence. As he shoved me into the back of the cruiser, I caught my reflection in the window, sweat on my brow, dust on my shirt, and eyes that had seen this before. Only this time. Something told me it wasn't going to end the way he expected. What happened next changed everything. You don't want to miss how this escalated, and who stepped into the picture when the truth started to unravel. I'd been in the back seat of a police cruiser before, once when my friend Marcus got pulled for a broken taillight and the officer didn't like how I looked amused. That ride was quiet. This one? Whole different story. First off, Patterson made sure to slam the door like he was shutting a vault on a national secret. Then he slid into the driver's seat, all calm and casual, like we were headed to lunch instead of the station. Windows down, radio low. I sat there with my hands cuffed, shoulders stiff, sweat gluing my shirt to the seat. "You know," he said without turning around, "you people never learn." There it was, that "you people" slip that ain't really a slip. It's the reveal, the mask falling off. "You mean good neighbors?" I shot back. "Or folks with jumper cables?" He chuckled, the kind of laugh that doesn't reach the eyes. "You think the world owes you something 'cause you helped a grandma?" Newsflash, not everyone's buying the performance. "Oh, don't worry," I said, tilting my head toward the side window where another civilian phone camera was pointed. "Some people got it on tape. They'll decide." That hit a nerve. He turned the radio up and didn't say another word for the rest of the ride. Just let the tires hum their way to the precinct. Now let me paint you a picture of the station lobby. Beige walls, flickering light above the vending machine that's been out of order since the Clinton administration. One officer asleep behind the desk. Another eating a sandwich with so much mustard it looked like paint. They walked me in like I was some small-time legend. Patterson didn't cuff me to a bench. No, that would have been too subtle. He walked me straight to the holding room, clicked the cuffs to a wall hook, and stood there, arms crossed like he was posing for a recruitment poster. "You sit tight," he said, like I had options. 10 minutes passed, maybe more. Then came the rattle, a knock on the door, not from the outside, from the window. That same teen from the gas station and the one who yelled out was outside the precinct. He had his phone out, He was live. "Yo, this the guy right here," the kid said into his camera. "They arrested him for helping Miss Lorraine. You believe that? He ain't do nothing." I could hear the comments dinging through the glass, people watching, sharing, the whole thing going viral faster than a cat video on roller skates. Patterson walked in, glanced out the window, and rolled his eyes like public attention was just bad weather. "Bunch of bored kids," he muttered, pulling the door closed. But I wasn't focused on him anymore, because the lobby got quiet, real quiet. And that's when a new voice cut through the air, smooth, calm, but with an edge that made everybody stand a little straighter. "Where's the officer who brought in Aaron James?" A woman's voice, not loud, but commanding, like she'd asked nicely but wouldn't ask again. Through the one-way glass, I saw her walk in. Tall, mid-50s, pantsuit sharp enough to slice a rumor in half. She had a folder under one arm and a badge clipped to her belt, not a local one either. Federal. "I'm Special Agent Davis," she said. "Civil Rights Division. You know, the folks that show up when police get too creative." Patterson's whole body stiffened. His voice dropped 2 octaves. "Ma'am, this isn't necessary. He was interfering." "With an elderly citizen's broken car?" she cut in. "Or do you mean assisting someone on a public street? Because there are multiple angles of him helping her. No aggression, no theft, not even a raised voice." One of the other officers, younger, probably new, cleared his throat. The video's on 4 different platforms now. It's everywhere." Patterson's face turned a shade lighter. Davis pulled out a file and held up my photo. "You detained the son of a decorated public servant. You humiliated him on camera. You initiated force without cause, and you smiled while doing it." He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. "Where is he now?" she asked, flat. He gestured like he wanted to say, "Right this way," but Davis was already walking. She opened the door to the holding room like it was hers, stepped inside, and looked me dead in the eye. "Mr. James," she said, "you're free to go." She unhooked the cuffs herself. No hesitation. Patterson was still standing by the door when we walked out. Davis didn't look at him, but I did, right in the eyes. I didn't say anything. Sometimes silence hits harder. Outside, the teen with the phone was still recording. He shouted, "They letting him go? Yo, say something, man." I turned to him, gave a small smile, and said, "Keep filming." The truth matters. He nodded, phone steady. Then came the part nobody saw coming. A black SUV pulled up. Clean, tinted windows. Door opened, and out stepped a man in a dark gray suit. No tie, no smile. But when he looked at me, his eyes softened. I didn't know whether to be relieved or furious, because I knew that face. But I hadn't seen it in 15 years. This is the moment. Everything you've been waiting for? It's happening now. Stick around, because the next move will turn this whole thing upside down. I didn't expect him to show up. Not that day. Not ever. Not after 15 years of silence, of missed birthdays and unopened letters. But there he was, standing outside the precinct like he belonged to a different version of my life, one where things didn't get broken and left that way. The man was tall, taller than I remembered, with the kind of posture that said he was used to being listened to. Gray at his temples, crisp line in his slacks, and that signature frown like somebody somewhere had just disappointed him again. Except this time, the someone was wearing a badge. He didn't look at the crowd, didn't glance at the cameras or the murmuring officers trying to act busy. He looked at me, and when he finally spoke, it was low and even, like thunder rolling in slow. You all right? I wanted to say a lot. I wanted to say, where were you? I wanted to say, you left when Mom got sick. I wanted to say, why now? But instead, I nodded. I'm good. He gave a small nod back, then turned to Special Agent Davis and said something I couldn't hear, just enough to make her raise an eyebrow. Whatever it was, she stepped aside, gave him room, and that's when Patterson came back out, still trying to keep that swagger, still pretending his world wasn't crumbling like a stale biscuit. But the second he saw my father, the color drained from his face like someone pulled the plug. "Sir," he stammered. My father didn't return the greeting. He just pulled out his credentials, slow and deliberate. Department of Justice, Deputy Director, Civil Oversight and Internal Accountability. Yeah, that level. "You arrested my son," he said, voice steady as steel. "You humiliated him in public. You placed your hands on him, all without probable cause, all while smirking for bystanders." Patterson blinked. I didn't know who he was." "That's the problem," my father said. "You treated him like this because you didn't know his name. But that shouldn't matter. What should matter is the law, not your assumptions, not your bias, not your authority complex." Now, I've seen my father in courtrooms, on C-SPAN, even once giving a speech next to a governor. But I've never seen him like this, jaw tight, eyes sharp, voice clipped with restraint. "You didn't just disrespect my son," he continued. "You disrespected the oath, the badge, and the community you claim to protect." By now, the lobby was frozen. Phones were out, eyes wide. Even the vending machine looked like it stopped buzzing. Patterson tried to recover. "I believed he was interfering with what? A senior citizen receiving help on a public sidewalk? You filed no report. You collected no statement. You acted on instinct, and that instinct was wrong." I felt something in my chest then. Not pride, not anger. Something older, like closure trying to climb its way out. My father turned to me. "You still carry your mother's patience," he said quietly. I didn't answer. Didn't have to. He looked back at Patterson. "Effective immediately, you are suspended pending formal review. Badge, gun, now." The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was full, like the whole building was holding its breath. Patterson hesitated, then slowly removed his badge and sidearm, handed them over with fingers that suddenly didn't seem so confident. And in that moment, something shifted. It wasn't just justice, it was balance. It was watching a man realize, too late, that not every black man he sees on the street is alone, powerless, or beneath him. Some have a whole community, some have receipts, and some have a father who knows the system inside and out because he helped build it. Outside, the crowd was growing. Local news vans were pulling up. The story had legs now. Black man wrongfully detained while helping elderly woman, rescued by father and DOJ. Yeah, they were going to run with that. Probably add some fancy music and a slow zoom. But I wasn't thinking about headlines. I was thinking about how my father walked past me after it was over. Just walked, didn't ask if I wanted lunch, didn't say, "Let's catch up." Just, "You comin'?" I hesitated, then followed. We sat on a bench outside. No reporters, no cameras, just us and the hum of the street. "You didn't have to come," I said. "I did." "Why?" He rubbed his jaw like the words tasted strange in his mouth. "Because I taught people how to fix the machine," he said. "And then I let it run over my own kid." We sat there for a long time, not talking, just breathing. And for the first time in a while, I didn't feel like the one who needed to apologize. Sometimes justice doesn't come in a courtroom. Sometimes it shows up wearing a suit, carrying your name, and reminding the world that dignity doesn't have to shout to be heard.